Hello, Grade 6. Welcome to the STEM Lockdown Digital School and welcome to your Grade 6 English First Additional Language lesson. Today is a revision lesson for Week 7. Thank you for joining us. My name is Teacher Fiona and I'm your Grade 6 First Additional Language teacher. Hello. Are you wondering what we'll be doing in our revision lesson? Okay, this is it. You'll be working from Term 2, Week 5 and 6 of the CAPS curriculum for listening and speaking, reading, language, and writing. We're going to take something from each part. So you're going to add missing words to a problem-solving poster. You're going to review regular and irregular verbs. You're going to review how to set out a letter. You're going to use the conjunctions because, but, and so that. You're going to identify phrasal verbs. You'll write a diary entry. And you'll identify the present perfect tense verbs in sentences. How does that sound? Yes, good. This is what we'll do in today's lesson. It's going to be a revision test of the week or the 2 weeks work for week 5 and 6 of the CAPS, and you're going to mark it yourself. Okay, so we'll test something you've learnt about each day this week, and you're going to be the teacher and mark your own work, but of course I'm going to tell you how to do that. Okay, are you ready? And then at the end we'll count up all your marks out of 60. Okay. So make sure you've got pencil, paper, etc., etc. Here is our first revision activity. You remember our problem-solving poster that both our stories used earlier this week? In fact, all 3 stories used this problem-solving poster. Let's see if you can remember some of the steps. Fill in the missing words from here. So, first of all, when you've got a problem, you have to identify the what? Identify the something. Write it down. Number 2. What you have to do next is something, everything you can about the problem. Everything you can about the problem. It could be 1 or 2 or even 3 words. Right, you got that. Then thirdly, what do you have to do next? Do you remember? Just think of your problem. First you had to identify the then you had to everything you can about the problem. Then you had to think of Bongani and the wise man. Then you had to on the most suitable idea. Okay, remember that? Then you had to it out. And if it doesn't work, you had to So you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 questions there. Okay, shall we mark your work now? Good. Okay, let's mark your work. Here are the answers. So here is our poster, our problem-solving poster, and let's see if you remembered the steps. So first of all, 1 mark where if you wrote identify, you had to identify the problem. A mark for find out everything you can about the problem. Another mark for the word discuss, like Bongani went to discuss with a wise man. Another mark for decide on the most suitable idea. Another mark for try it out. And then if you succeed, very good, and a mark for if not, try another idea. So that makes 6 marks. Give yourself a mark out of 6. Okay? 6. How did you do, I wonder? Right, we're going to add them all up at the end. Got that? Good. Let's start with regular and irregular verbs. Language is a very important part of a language. So learning about language structures actually helps you to speak the language properly. Now, we've done regular and irregular verbs before, but you do know that in English there are regular verbs and there are irregular verbs that don't fit into any structures. They're problem verbs, but we need to learn about them. So regular verbs are the ones that if you put them into the past tense, they just take ed at the end, or t, or just a d if they already end in an e. So they're very easy to put into a structure. For example, shout, shouted, jump, jumped. Dance already ends with an e, so you just add a d. Dance, danced. Climb, climbed. So the rule would be you have the verb, like shout, and you add ed to make it into the simple past tense, or you add a d if it already ends with an e. So the rule is very simple and easy to remember, and it would be wonderful if all English verbs worked in a similar manner, but they don't, because we get irregular verbs and they change altogether when they're put into the past tense. They follow their own rules. You just have to know what they are. For example, eat changes to ate, run changes to ran, think changes to thought, drink changes to drank. You got that? Good. The verb changes completely. Awesome. Right, here's our test part of regular and irregular verbs. They're different verbs to when we did this before. Okay, let's go. So I want you to change these verbs to the past tense and say whether they are regular or irregular verbs. So here are the verbs. Let's read them together first. Begin, bump, teach, place, become, fly, roar, ride, be, smile. Okay, I want you to change those to the past tense and also write whether they're regular with the little r or irregular with an I. Now you'll have to work fast because with it being an online lesson, I can't give you a lot of time to fill this chart in. Let's get started. you done? Alright. So wherever you're up to, that's where we'll have to stop. And let's go on and mark this activity. Are you ready to mark? Here are the answers for regular and irregular verbs. You had to change these verbs to the past tense and say whether they are regular or irregular verbs. Okay, so they were new verbs from the time we did this before. So let's read them together going across. You're going to be marking whatever's in the blue box, and your marks are going to be worth 20 marks. Ready? Begin, began, irregular. Bump, bumped, regular. Teach, taught, irregular. Place, placed, regular. Become, became, irregular. Fly, flew, irregular. Shout, shouted, regular. Ride, rode, irregular. Buy, bought, irregular. Bake, baked, regular. How did you do? Give yourself a mark out of 20 and write it down somewhere so we can add it up at the end in our final mark out of 60. Got it? Good. Let's go on. Let's review how to set out a letter, and then we'll do a little quiz. Okay? Did you notice how the example letter is set out? I want you to take special notice of that now as we read it again, because I'm going to give you a little quiz on it after this. Right, ready? So first of all, there is the address. 100 Yariba Street, Mitchell's Plain, 7785, 12th of February 2020. You can see that it's the address, the postcode, and the date, right? Then we miss a line, and we have the salutation, Dear John. We miss another line. It was great seeing you at the school's cross-country championships last week. How are things going up there in Durban? I miss Durban. That was paragraph 1. Begin with greetings. I now go to a big school near Cape Town. There are nearly 2,000 children at our school. Our school is quite near the sea. Did you see that the papers recently reported a shark attack that took place near to where I live? The man was actually saved by a seal. That is the second paragraph, and that has some news. Have you got all that? You've remembered all that so far? Great. Let's continue with the letter. I hope you can convince your parents to let you visit me during the next school holidays. We can take a cable car up Table Mountain. We can go and see the penguins at Boulders Beach, and we can go to the beach and swim every day. That's paragraph 3. You can see it's starting to close off now. Your friend, Jason. And that's a friendly closing and your name. Did you get all that? Are you ready for a little quiz? Great. What we're going to do now is we're going to have a little quiz. So I'd like you to get a pencil and paper. We're going to have a quiz from numbers 1 to 9. So when we started off, what was that top part called? What 3 things went into that top part? Can you write that down for me? Do you remember what they were, what they are? All right, let's go on. What do we do after that? What does that arrow mean? Blue arrow. What do you have to do after that top part? Have you got that written down? Now the next part, what is that called? Can you remember its name? Right. After that, what do you do? There's the blue line again. What do you do there? You've written it down, number 4. Now number 5. What is number 5? It's paragraph 1. But what is paragraph 1? Can you remember what it is? Right, let's go on. Then we get the next paragraph, paragraph 2. What is paragraph 2 about? Right. Let's go on. And we get paragraph 3. What is paragraph 3 about? After that, what goes first? The bottom of the end of your letter. And what goes underneath that? So there's your little quiz. 9 things. Did you miss anything? See if you can fill it in quickly. You got it? Great. Okay, let's go through the answers. This is going to be out of 9. Okay, so let's see if you got all these answers correct for setting out your letter. So remember the top. There's 3 things at the top: address, the code, the postal code, and the date. You only get a mark if you've got all 3 of those, right? Okay, then you had to miss a line, so that's another mark. You get a mark for your salutation. It's called a salutation. Dear John, dear Granny. You get another mark for missing a line. Then we get our first paragraph, which we can say is a greetings paragraph. We have our second paragraph, which is a news paragraph. Both of those are 1 mark each. We have our third paragraph, which is a closing paragraph, another mark. And then we're going to have a friendly closing and write your name. Okay, so if you count those up, it should come to 9 marks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Give yourself a mark out of 9 and keep a record of it so we can add it up to the total, get the total mark out of 60. You got it? Good. Let's go on. Now we're going to review connecting words. And the 3 that we're going to review are because, so that, and but. Alright, let's do our connecting words. Now, do you remember this picture? This comes from our story about Hermione and the water problem at the school. Now, do you remember that they were having a workshop on problem solving, and they all had to ask as many questions as they could about water, because their school did not have any clean water, and they would drink the dirty water, and some of them would get sick. So I would like you to write 3 sentences about this picture using the connecting words because, so that, and but. Could you think of three sentences? Remembering that because gives a reason, so that shows a purpose, and but shows contrast. Right, let's give you a minute to write those. Finished? I wonder what you wrote. Now I can only give you some examples, and you're going to have to work out whether you think yours is right. Give yourself, there'll be 3 marks for this. So say for because, you could write anything, but I could say the children are brainstorming because they need to find a way to purify their water. Something like that. Gives a reason. For so that, the children are brainstorming so that they can find a way to have clean drinking water at school. Something like that, showing a purpose for their brainstorming. And then the but shows contrast. There are plenty of mountain streams around, but there isn't a way of getting them to the school. Something like that. Okay, decide whether your 3 sentences are good sentences and give yourself a mark out of 3. Got that? Good. Right, now we are on part 5 of our test, our revision test, and this is on phrasal verbs. Do you remember what phrasal verbs are? So a phrasal verb is a verb that's made up of a main verb together with another word which could be an adverb or a preposition or both. For example, looked up, throw away. They're both phrasal verbs. There are 2 parts to the phrasal verb has got 2 parts to it. Looked up. You could even have looked down. Throw away. So it's a main verb and another word, which is either an adverb or a preposition. Got that? Okay. The meaning of the phrasal verb is usually not obvious from the words used. For example, looks down. Look down. You can use look down for looking down, but it also means something else. He always looks down on me. That means something completely different, doesn't it? Means that he thinks I'm not worthy enough. Okay, got it. Right, here are some phrasal verbs from this week's 2 stories. Try and pick out the phrasal verbs in the sentences, and while you're doing that, try and think of their meanings. Right. So there's our first picture. Bongani called back on the wise man to collect his animals. Let's read them together first. Number 2. Bongani's grandparents calmed down when he said they could return. Number 3. Bongani knew he had to carry out the wise man's suggestions. Number 4. The ill lady found out where the children lived. That's our other story. And number 5, the children looked forward to the lady's weekly visit. Right, so you finished that one. so we can go on and mark it. You've written down all the phrasal verbs, right? Good. Let's go through the answers. You had to write down the phrasal verbs and try to work out their meanings. So your marks are just going to be for identifying the phrasal verbs. Okay. So the first one, Bongani called back on the wise man to collect his animals. Called back is the phrasal verb. And what does it mean? He went back to his house again. Okay, that one's fairly simple meaning. Number 2, Bongani's grandparents calmed down when he said they could return. Calmed down meaning felt a lot easier, felt happy, weren't so upset. Right. Number 3, Bongani knew he had to carry out the wise man's suggestions. Carry out means he had to do them. He had to put them into practice. Number 4, the ill lady found out where the children lived. So you could say she discovered, she found out. And number 5, the children looked forward to the lady's weekly visit. That's quite a big long one, three words. Looked forward to means they were excited about. Right, so you've got 5 marks there. Give yourself a mark out of 5. Write it down somewhere. Got that? Great. In our 6th activity, you're going to read and write a diary entry. Right. You'll remember the story. Bongani's setting off to the wise man's house, and he's got his 3 animals plus his chicken with him. Let's read his diary. Notice how it's set out. 3rd of October 2018. Dear Diary, today I walked to the wise man's house. I took my animals with me for some exercise. It was a long walk. I was tired and hungry when I got there. The wise man kindly gave me food and a bed. I hope he can help me in the morning. Good night. From me, Bongani. Do you see how it's set out? Do you see where to miss lines? Do you see the 2 paragraphs? And the ending? Great. Are you ready to write a diary entry? We're going to use the children's story that we read on Tuesday. Do you remember this setup? The 4 children were looking through the dustbins, and then the shawl through the window. Inside the room was a sick lady who we'll call Agnes. Can you think of a diary entry about this event, either written from the point of view of one of the children or from the point of view of Agnes? Okay, you got it. So you're ready to start writing? All right. Have you got something written down for your diary entry? Great. Let's mark your diary entry. So we'll use this example as an idea and pretend that it was from you. So first of all, there's the date on the left. Did you write the date on the left? 1 mark for that. 1 mark for missing a line there. Another mark for your salutation, dear diary. Another mark for missing a line. So far that's 4 marks. Then a mark for your first paragraph. Another mark for missing a line. A mark for your second paragraph. A mark for missing a line. And then your ending. So if you had to count those up, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it's out of 9. Give yourself a mark out of 9 and make a note of it somewhere to add up just now when we get to the end. Got that? Great. Let's move on to the present perfect tense. There are around 12 tenses in English, and the present perfect tense is one of them. We've done this one before. So do you remember it? It refers to actions that are already completed and have been done in the past. For example, she has made a delicious cake. She's already done it. I have completed my homework. She has worn that dress before. Do you notice the 2 words there that give you a clue that it's the present perfect tense? Has and have. That's what you look out for in a sentence, and then you know it's the present perfect tense. So to make the present perfect tense, you have the subject of the sentence, then you add has or have, and then you add the verb in the past participle form. I'll explain now what is meant by the past participle form. So if we look at that first sentence, the subject, she. Then we have has or have, has. Then we have the verb in the past participle form, made. Right, so let's go on. Here is your little test activity. I want you to identify the present tense verbs. Now remember I said I would explain what the past participle form is. In English, when you use the past tense for regular verbs, shout, shouted, jumped, jump, jumped, it's called the past tense, but it's also called the past participle form. They're the same thing in regular verbs, but in irregular verbs, which have their own rules, the past participle form changes. So for example, I could say write, to write a letter. The past tense would be wrote, but the past participle form would be written. I have written. Do you see how the irregular verbs are the problematic ones? They change again. They change in the past tense, then they change again when you use has or have. But anyway, let's read these sentences together, then I want you to identify the present perfect tense verbs. Number 1, Tim has played the flute for 1 year. Number 2, they have looked forward to the celebration for a long time. Number 3, the farmers have often used the seed bank in the past. Number 4, the oak tree has taken a long time to grow. Number 5, she has sung in the choir for 3 years. Number 6, I have written down the recipe for bean stew. Number 7, he has sold his guitar. And number 8, she has won the award twice. So as I've been reading, have you noticed which are the present perfect tense verbs? And have you written them down? I'm going to give you a little bit of time now to write them down. Got that? Are you finished? Okay, we're going to mark those now. Let's mark them. So this is worth 8 marks. You ready? Okay, first one, Tim has played the flute for 1 year. Has played. Number 2, they have looked forward to the celebration for a long time. Have looked forward to. Number 3, the farmers have often used the seed bank for 2 years. Have used. Number 4, the oak tree has taken a long time to grow. Has taken. Number 5, she has sung in the school choir for 3 years. Has sung. Number 6, I have written down the recipe for bean stew. Have written down. Number 7, he has sold his guitar. Has sold. And number 8, she has won the award twice. Has won. So you can see how to recognize them with the has and the have. Got that? That one's out of 8 marks. Give yourself a mark out of 8. Okay, good. Now it's time to add up your marks. Okay, you wrote all those marks down, I hope. So let's add them up. So first of all, you had your problem solving steps. That was out of 6 marks. Write that one down. Then you had your regular and irregular verbs, which is out of 20 marks. Write that one down. Then number 3, you had to set out a letter, and you got 9 marks for that. Number 4, you used the conjunctions because, so that, and but, and wrote 3 sentences. 3 marks for that. Number 5, you did phrasal verbs, the verbs that look down, look up, that sort of verb where there's 2 parts to the verb. You got 5 marks for that. And number 6, you had to write a diary entry correctly. There were 9 marks for that. And number 7, our last one, the present verb perfect tense, there were 8 marks for that. So add them all up and give yourself a mark out of 60. I wonder what you got. What did you get? Awesome. I'm going to give you time to add them up. Finished? I wonder what you got. What I'd like to say is well done. Well done. Let's review what you did today in this lesson. You worked from Term 2, Week 5 and 6 CAPS curriculum for listening and speaking, reading, language and writing. It was a revision test kind of lesson. So you had to work out the answers and then I showed you how to mark them. You added the missing words to the problem-solving steps. You reviewed regular and irregular verbs. You reviewed how to set out a letter. You used the conjunctions because, but, and so that. You identified phrasal verbs. You wrote a diary entry. And you identified the present perfect tense. Verbs, I should say. So, in the end, you marked each section yourself and gave yourself a mark out of 60. Well done. Well done. That mark should show you how well you've understood the week's work. Here are some activities to try out this week. You could watch some animated language videos on regular and irregular verbs and the perfect tenses if you wanted to get more help with those. And then the art pictures were from our stories, our 3 stories this week. You can try and read all those stories again if you want to. And the free music clip was from the YouTube audio library. I'd like to invite you to the following lesson on Monday the 17th of May. It's a listening and speaking lesson. See you there. And that brings us to the end of our lesson for this week. Thank you for joining us and goodbye.